Live na po.
Thank you, Miss
Alright.
Len. Hi, VP Ruby.
Hello, magandang hapon. Magandang hapon sa inyo mga ka-Pix Pro.
So, how was your week so far po? Kamusta?
Busy as always. Ito nga ating hindi na yata nakapag-ayos. Excited lang umattend dito ulit sa ating kwentuhang cybersecurity. Yeah, but before anything else, Edi Arlene, babatiin lang natin ang ating poging VP. Si VP Ricky, happy birthday!
Yes, happy birthday, VP Ricky.
Oh,
Parang
Nasaan
nasa abroad pa po ata siya.
Ah,
Business, opo. I'm
I
not
see.
sure, pero wherever you are, VP Ricky, lagi naman po nakasupport yan sa atin. On and offline, so happy birthday po.
Yeah, happy birthday, and may you have many more.
Yes.
Alright. And congratulations to your daughter, Edi Arlene.
Yeah. Ano po graduation fever, graduation season. So, sa mga
Right.
nagsipagtapos, ngayong batch, for batch 2023-2024, mabuhay kayo. And good luck sa bagong tatahaking sa buhay in terms of your career, in terms of your study. So, congratulations. Kayo rin ata, VP Ruby.
Yes,
Proud parent din.
Proud parent.
Graduate. Yes.
Of course. Ayan, and congratulations sa lahat ng mga graduate. No?
Yes po. And of course, yung mga na-recognize din po because of their efforts for the entire school year. Hindi man kayo graduate pa for now, but your hard work paved the way for you to finish this strong. So congratulations din po sa inyong lahat.
Yes, and special mention lang, meron taga-amin, Edi Arlene.
Yes po.
Graduate siya, senior high school, and she's 67 years old.
Ay, ang galing naman.
Yes, and sabi niya, she would take up journalism. Itutuloy niya yung kanyang pag-aaral.
Tama po. Ano naman tayo learning is a lifelong process. So, regardless of our age, kung gusto mong matuto, walang pumipigil sa'yo. So,
Yes,
that's very commendable. Commendable po
tama.
yan.
And speaking of learning, ako ay excited dito sa ating KC for today dahil meron tayong learning the machine way. Tama ba yon? Or machine learning?
Race against the machine? Yun po ba ang ating tema ngayon? Are we really racing against the machine? Or are the machines helping us in some ways that we as mere human beings cannot do or cannot substantiate because of our limitations. Ang daming tanong actually. To share this with you, nung ito po ay pinag-uusapan pa lang namin, hindi ko pa po sila formally introduce, pero Miss Desha, yes, nung pinag-uusapan po namin ito ni Miss Desha, one of the prettiest faces that we have among our tech partners. Hi, Miss Desha.
Hello everyone, good afternoon.
From Team ESET, batang-bata, di ba? Ang fresh ni Miss Desha. Nung pinag-uusapan namin, I was really excited because for the longest time, we are looking for possible speakers who would be brave enough, okay, to take the lead and discuss this particular topic. Kasi ito yung ito yung trend ngayon. Ito yung naririnig natin online. Even in fact, meron tayong movie. If you, hindi ako nagpo-promote ha, pero yung movie na Atlas, if you are familiar with that, may mga movies tayo about that particular topic. Pero yung konsepto natin about, sabihin ko na AI, machine learning, hindi ganoon kaklaro. So ito ba ay kalaban? Ito ba ay kakampi? Ito ba ay makakatulong sa atin? And I do admire the fact that ESET took the challenge in doing the first discussion about AI and machine learning. Yes.
Yan. All right. Magsha-shoutout lang ako, Edi Arlene, no? We have meron natin si VP Jessie, no, watching from La Union. Hello, VP Jessie.
Ay, at may isa pa po pala tayong birthday celebrant din, incoming.
Ay, yeah.
Yes,
si
po.
VP Lulu. Tama ba? Edi Arlene,
Yes,
si VP
po.
Lulu
VP
ng
Lulu.
Aurora.
From Quezon province po.
Quezon.
Yes po.
Dumadami
Sa dami.
Yes, VP Lulu, happy birthday. And salute sa'yo. kay Pres Jodel, no?
May
Brother
mga
Jodel, sir.
activities po yan. Nakalinya din.
Yes, babalik sila ng Bicol ba?
Catanduanes, yes po. And then by
Catanduanes,
July,
yes.
they will start their info drive naman in Parañaque. Hopefully, together with us in the national po or in the NCR,
Yes,
if schedule permits.
Pres Jodel, let's discuss this inyong project sa NCR. Yan. Ito rin
Okay.
si Sir Magnifico, Janicio, watching from Taguig. Ayan. And from Marinduque Island, si Sir Antonio, Sir Nadilla.
Okay.
Meron ka na agad, yung ating speaker, meron na may fan.
Very sikat si Sir Tommy. Ayaw lang niyang
Yes,
aminin.
tama.
Sir Tommy, kamusta ka na? Akala ko talaga nabudol ako. Akala ko talaga foreigner.
Kaya nga nasabihin ko, paano ko i-explain? Paano ako magtatanong? Meron akong tanong, hindi ko maipuput into English. Alright.
Sir Tommy, magpakita ka naman.
Wala
Kamusta?
pa ba?
Akin.
Ayan, okay na.
And
Ayan.
Meron
Diba?
nagpapa-shoutout sa'yo, Sir Tommy, si Homer Paul Esteves Javier.
Sir Homer
Ayan.
from Fortinet.
Sir Homer talaga.
Ay,
Yes.
Sir Homer, na-miss ka rin namin dito sa KC.
Ayan. And si
Okay.
Albert Remo. Good afternoon
Hi,
po.
Sir Albert. One of our avid viewers and followers for PIX Pro. Magandang hapon po.
Yes.
Okay, we have Mr. Alvin Villalino Arevalo. Good afternoon, mga ka-PIX Pro. And Sister Resu King Nuevo. This, I believe that you are from are you from Davao Occidental? Isa po siya sa mga sumulat po sa atin, vying to have, of course, a chapter in his area. So pag-uusapan pa po natin yan, of course. We have happy birthday pala sa iyo, sir. And magandang hapon po sa lahat from Joel Tolentino Duque.
Ito si Press Alan. Good afternoon, Sir Alan. Press Alan. And si Christopher Son Dizon, Lagwatan. Magandang hapon din po sa iyo.
Hi, Sir Tops. Good afternoon.
Yan. Okay, ang dami natin mga pagbate.
Maraming nag-aabang kay Sir Tommy.
Grabe.
Oo,
Hindi mo naman kami na-inform, sir, na ano ka pala. Celebrity.
Ang daming followers.
Ayan.
Okay.
Si Bo Yet. Si Sir Bo Yet. Yan. Good afternoon po.
Kamusta, sir? Okay, so we have Ike de la Fuente. Good afternoon from PUP Santa Mesa, BP Ruby.
Wow.
Sintang
PUP.
alma mater.
Yes.
Mga isko at iska. From me, L, good afternoon po. Magandang hapon po sa inyo. Okay, uy, may kababayan tayo dito na taga Iligan. Good afternoon po, watching from Iligan, Lenona Lynette Mantos Tahupis. Okay, and Dom Orasyon, meron po ba daw tayo BP Ruby na chapter sa Quezon City?
Chat po kayo sa aming Messenger, PIX Pro, or punta po kayo sa aming PIX Pro page at mag-message po kayo doon.
Okay po, para i-coordinate din po namin. I believe this is under NCR, so may chapter po tayo doon.
Yes.
Okay, BP Ruby, we have Renhar Irahani Idris. Good afternoon po sa lahat from SCC Zamboanga City. Ang layo, nakakarating tayo ng Zamboanga. Okay.
Alright. Bibi Alin.
Ang dami. Sige, last few shout-outs po before we formally introduce our mga ka-PIX Pro here na magpapaliwanag sa ating topic for today. Ferdinand Fernandez, hello po ma'am. Good afternoon po. From Macjon Sina, good afternoon po sa lahat. And PIX Pro from Cebu City. Isa rin sa mga natin ito. Masugid na taga-subaybay.
Yes, si Sir Ferdinand Fernandez, nagtatanong siya kung may chapter na ba sa Baguio City. Okay, so
Pwede nating simulan.
pwede. Yung kanina,
Okay.
yung tatanong ko meron sa QC, medyo nalito ako. Ang iniisip ko kasi info drive. Kung meron ba sa QC na info drive. But yeah, Quezon City is under the NCR chapter. So, Meron po tayong NCR chapter. If you're interested to be one of the members po, punta lang po kayo sa ating Pixpro page at mag-message po kayo doon. Or pwede rin po kayo doon, makikita niyo po yung QR, i-scan nyo lang po yung QR code. Andun po yung membership details.
Okay po. From Jonathan Urbano, we have good afternoon daw po. And from Ed-Sac de los Santos, good afternoon from Bacoor, Cavite. Hopefully, Cavite, soon. Magkakaroon po tayo ng mga info drives there. Sir Frederick Gonda, na makakasama natin next week. Okay, sa Batangas. Good afternoon sa iyo. And Raymar Villarhermosa, one of our, ano po ito, products from the CCSPP. Good afternoon from Antarex PH.
Wow, Antarex!
Galing. So, without much further ado, syempre po.
Yes,
So,
Igarling.
okay po. To discuss about machine learning, of course, with us today is Team 𝐸𝐴𝐧, headed by, of course, their guest speaker, Mr. Tommy Ping. So, Sir Tommy, kindly give us naman po a short insight on what you do for 𝐸𝐴𝐧.
Okay, so actually I'm one of the regional pre-sales in 𝐸𝐴𝐧, so I'm helping the security team in terms of selling more solutions. So more on enablement, education, as well as sales stuff. Yeah.
And basically, si Sir Tommy rin po, together with the Team 𝐸𝐴𝐧 Philippines, with Ms. Desha and Sir Mark, sila po ang ating makakasama as representatives from 𝐸𝐴𝐧 in all of our endeavors as regards to our advocacy of creating a safer and a better Philippine cyberspace. So sir, I won't take your time kasi alam ko marami kang sasabihin at ikukwento sa amin. We'll give you the floor. Thank you very much po.
Okay. So first of all, I'd like to thank Pixpro for inviting us over, and also would like to thank my colleague Robert, provided most of the contents that you would see on this presentation. So for this sharing session, this Kwentuhan Cybersecurity, we're going to talk about machine learning. So how are we using it? What are its benefits? What are its problems? How the bad guys are using it right now, and how they might start using it in the future. So first things first, let's start with a bit of a terminology, right? So the term artificial intelligence and machine learning are often used wrongly and interchangeably, with seemingly little to no difference between them. But for 𝐸𝐴𝐧, in 𝐸𝐴𝐧, we define artificial intelligence to be more like a general concept, where an intelligent machine can learn and make decisions independently. So based on inputs from its environment. So in other words, it can act without human supervision. So as we can see from this definition itself, right, true AI is currently still in the realm of science fiction. However, our industry right now are currently using machine learning technology. And this gives the machines ability to find patterns over vast amount of data. And it's always designed by humans. And we also often hear about the term deep learning, which is just a specific part of a machine learning, but it has more deep and wide artificial neural network. So for me, I like this definition better, right? So this joke or this quote perfectly describes the reality of what a lot of people think. AI is often used as a buzzword and a way to get more attention, even more funding. Whereas machine learning is used more often by experts and researchers. So now let's go back a bit in time to the roots of machine learning. So the idea behind machine learning originates back in 1950 at IBM, right? 1950s, just imagine that. In the 60s, the self-teaching computer called Cybertron was used to analyze solar signals and electrocardiograms. And that machine uses punch tape memories. Even in early 2000s, right? This is what machine learning looked like. Still mostly theoretical work, more on equations, and more still under proof of concept. And during that time, you have to build everything on your own, develop your own algorithms. There's no fancy frameworks like that we have today. But nowadays, machine learning model can be designed and trained in a much more simpler environment, and sometimes even drag and drop web interface, which can do all the coding for you, and all the training for you are available. And today, anyone with internet access can download a fully pre-trained and functional model and to use it on their own. And the scary part is this is true for good and bad purposes, which we'll go to that later. So as I mentioned, machine learning is really everywhere around us, impacting, improving our lives every day without us even noticing it, and not even necessarily understand how they work. And often explaining the thought of the model is still unattainable. However, as these tools are often used, they can equally be used in the wrong way. So they could even help those cyber criminals. And there's no limitation on how cyber criminals could use these tools today, and likely would utilize them more in the future. So to illustrate this point, that anyone can use machine learning to their own benefit, half of the image that you could see on these slides are in fact generated by a downloadable model called Stable Diffusion. So can you guess which of these images are fake? So let's see if you got that correctly. So they have 6 pictures. So let's check. So the very first image that is fake is this one, right? Second is this one, and the third image. So as you can see, literally just having internet access enables anyone to use this open source model for their own intention, whether it's good or bad. And in the realm of cybersecurity, right? So the situation is even more complicated. Some cybersecurity vendors present machine learning as a silver bullet, that it's capable of solving all problems in cybersecurity. And these vendors also claim that you don't need to update, right? You don't need updates if you have a good machine learning model, or that you don't need to do unpacking, obfuscate, emulate, sandbox samples to classify them correctly. We in ESET oppose all those claims. Our position, and I think that our experience and reputations make us competent in this area, is that efficient machine learning-based model in cybersecurity must be first, it must be regularly updated, right? Second, the model must be accompanied with many other layers of security, as a single layer cannot overcome all obstacle, right? Cannot do all detection. Third, the model must be trained on correctly labeled and sampled data. And here, the domain knowledge is very important, right? So for ESET, we do have 30 years of experience in terms of malware analysis, and that certainly helps in training the AI model. And some vendors may tend to share stories that are more imaginative, but let's aim to gain a clearer understanding on this area. So let's do a quick look at the brief history of ESET and how ESET uses machine learning. So the very first day of ESET back in the 90s, when internet and cybersecurity or cyber threats were just beginning, we were already experimenting with applications of neural network. In 1998, ESET introduced a new approach to malware detection. This includes like heuristics, behavior detection, and also use neural network, which made its way to our scanners. Customer back then benefited greatly in terms of the improved detection and protection level. But we didn't stop there. In 2005, ESET announced another machine learning-inspired technology that was named DNA detection, which we're going to discuss later. DNA detection proves to be effective against known and also emerging threats. And there's a series of internal projects that focusing on machine learning that soon followed. And one result of this internal project is a new back-end expert system designed to do mass processing of hundreds of thousands of samples every day, as well as several internal machine learning-based tools that help us with threat mapping, right? And during this time in the early 2010s, the whole machine learning field made significant progress. Infrastructure for machine learning are becoming more and more affordable, and machine learning are becoming easy to deploy. And in 2017, right, having many years of experience with machine learning and data science, we introduced a new machine learning detection engine in the cloud, which was later incorporated to our endpoint as well. 2022 saw 𝐸𝐴T's partnership with Intel. This is leveraging Intel's TDT, right? So with this, 𝐸𝐴T gains access to machine learning model trained on CPU level telemetry to detect more sophisticated ransomware. And last year, we introduced AI in our automated incident creator. So this AI assists security analysts by correlating all indicators of compromise, extract from large volume of events, and in turn, it shortened the time needed for each incident, to analyze each incident. And this year, we're going to introduce another generative AI assistance, which we call 𝐸𝐴T AI Advisor. So this provides insight and assistance, which are designed to enhance security operations. So more info on that later. So moving on, the main limitation in terms of using machine learning algorithm that we've seen over the years was the huge cost of specific hardware and the load of software engineers, since the available tools were scarce and you need to develop everything on your own, right? So this has changed recently with the boom of big data technologies, and with specific hardware, and mainly GPUs are becoming more cheaper, right? So now machine learning algorithms themselves are on the rise. Academic papers describing different ways in this field are emerging almost every day, and there are a lot of framework available in internet. So for example, of those frameworks would be Torch, TensorFlow, scikit-learn are just simply some of those frameworks, and they are making machine learning available for any developers out there. So for us, this is also a great opportunity to try all kinds of algorithms to identify those which works best for us and focus more on those. So another part is that you need a large database, right? So for 𝐸𝐴T, we do have a database contains hundreds of terabytes of samples. But the problem with that is that volume is not the important thing in terms of training machine learning models. The real advantage is the intelligence associated with the data. And the data must be correctly labeled, which is the key to training a well-performing model. So even if you have a large volume of data, but all your data is incorrectly labeled, then it wouldn't be any use to you. So this is not how it's supposed to be done, right? From this sketch itself. Right? So a large data is not very useful. You need to have a correctly labeled data. So moving on. So machine learning is great, right? So great that some vendors present it as a silver bullet. But again, solving all cybersecurity related issues, which is of course a myth, right? So not even the newest, shiniest machine learning algorithms trained on data from the whole universe could detect 100% of malware and have 0 false positives. Another claim that we often see is this, right? We can detect any malware without running it by doing pure math. So let's try to look at this for a bit, right? So from the famous mathematician, right, cryptanalyst Alan Turing, the man who broke the Nazi Enigma code during World War II, proves that this isn't possible. It's not possible to design a machine or a program capable of predicting the future. Unknown inputs will always lead to unknown, undesirable outputs. And the same thing is true for malware detection. Detecting malware purely by doing math is impossible, as maliciousness is often dependent on context. Here's just one example, right? Exaggerated example, actually. TeamViewer. TeamViewer run by an admin to support a user is probably okay, right? Because you're using it as a tool, right? But your grandma using TeamViewer to get scammed, probably not so okay, right? Another claim is that machine learning just doesn't cut it. You have to use deep learning. But again, this is overhyped, right? Because they are just simply relying on a different but still single algorithm. Again, as I mentioned earlier, deep learning is just a type of machine learning where human expertise in feature extraction has been mostly replaced by an even deeper and wider neural network. But don't get me wrong, right? Machine learning can perform great in some environments. For example, it can learn to play games quickly, right? And even beat the best players in the world. For example of this would be chess and Go, right? All these games have something in common through them, right? They have something in common, which is a very strict set of rules. But in cybersecurity, I'm afraid the rules are very different. Or to be more exact, right? There are no rules. Cybercriminals do not hesitate to bend or break the rules, and each action and outcome is possible, right? So what I'm trying to say is the ever changing nature and vast complexity of environments make it impossible to create a solution to detect all future threats. And machine learning itself doesn't change that fact. So what we need is still human expertise. Human expertise are crucial for constantly monitoring our machine learning algorithms and tweaking them as needed. So what about false positives, right? So obviously from this picture, you could tell that this is false positive, right? Same thing goes for cyber criminals. Cyber criminals work hard to avoid detection through obfuscation, encryption, while a malware detection could be a problem for businesses, it's less obvious with false positives. False positives meaning incorrectly labeling benign items as malicious. So a security solution based only on machine learning could very well produce tens or even hundreds of false positive daily. And if that happens, right, security administrators have two choices, whether they're going to keep the settings strict and lose productivity, or they're going to loosen up the settings and reduce detection capabilities, which we don't want. And as in real life, right, when you think you're pregnant, you would at least double check or ask for a second opinion from a professional. Right? Relying on one opinion is not enough. There are already numerous white papers describing attack techniques on common machine learning algorithms. And this is why our approach is a machine learning model made of a selection of classification algorithms, including deep learning. And this compound solution is best designed to be more resilient against attempts to evade detection. So what I'm trying to say is the need for multi-layer protection. I've been stressing it several times during this presentation, and this is what I mean by that. So this is, as you can see, this is ESET technology stack, including advanced layers like DNA detection, deep behavioral inspection, script scanners, advanced machine learning modules. We're not going to go into details to all of them, but let's take a closer look at DNA detection. So at a time when most AVs use old school hash-based signatures, ESET came up with the idea to look for malicious behavior and build detections around it. The advantage of this is that it's difficult and time-consuming to change the behavior, which means it's difficult to evade, right? Even a small number of DNA detection can identify tens of thousands of malware variants. And DNA transformed the analyzed sample on the endpoint into a form more suitable for matching and more suitable for detection by extracting precise selected feature, which we call genes. And all DNA detection together are combined into one complex model, which splits the space between malicious and clean binaries. And since DNA detection are created not only by human researchers, but also by our automated system, the model receives regular update, and the technology can be described as an online machine learning. So this is just an example. So this graph illustrates how effective ESET DNA detection is. A single DNA detection was able to cover over 79,000 unique malware files in the wild. And by doing this, right, our reverse engineers didn't have to analyze those files one by one. So they just simply let the scanners use the single detection, and it proved to be effective for years. And over time, the attackers struggled avoiding detection using this technique. Another DNA detection statistics. This is from TrickBot over the course of 2020. So why do I mention this one, right? You might have heard about Conti leaks, right? Conti leaks during the early invasion of Ukraine, right? So this leak happened shortly after the war in Ukraine broke out, which gave us an inside look into how one of the largest ransomware gangs in the world operated. And this is their source code, right? Even their email and chat communications were leaked at the time. And as you can see right here, they're complaining about our detection, right? It's great to see when bad guys are struggling to avoid detection by us. And the one thing that I love is this part, right? That other vendors aren't causing them too much trouble. So what better endorsement for our DNA detection can you get than that, right? So now I'd like to show you how a machine learning model made to detect file encrypting ransomware behavior could look like. Again, there's many different approach on which we could take for this, but for now we'll focus only on API calls extracted from the sample. And this is, of course, extremely simplified, which doesn't take into account obfuscation or even runtime library import. This is just to simply show you how machine learning could be used and what are its limits. Here, here we have an example of a crypto ransomware open in Hue. And we could see immediately that some interesting APIs are called. Some of them are cryptographic setup functions, file reading, and looking closer into it, you would see like encryption method itself, file writing, and there could also be many more interesting API called, such as, for example, disabling Windows recovery, disabling shadow volumes, creating name mutexes, creating checking for debugger presence, or even setting auto runs in registry. Now, the question is, if we extract all these APIs, what kind of machine learning algorithm could you use to create a model for classifying sequence of API calls from the sample to check whether it's malicious or benign, right? How are you going to check, right? And there are many sequence analysis models to choose from, right? Very first one is like random forest, a bag of words or n-words or n-grams. There's also convolutional networks. There's also recurrent neural networks. You might have heard of this, LSTM, long short-term memory, right? And this is it, right? And lastly, there's also sequential analysis model called BART architecture. Probably this is not the BART, but more towards this one, right? So what's interesting about BART is that it's one of its core principle is so-called self-attention. When the model is processing one sequence, self-attention allows each token in the sequence to look for other tokens to better know which of them contributes to the current token. So this is often used in language modeling. I'm sure you guys heard about ChatGPT, right? So it uses the same thing, right? So this can often discover grammatic relationship between words. So let me just use an example for this. So this is how it looks like. Like the word it might be related to the subject, the monkey, but also it could be related to the subject or to the object, banana, right? So not only in this attention mechanism really helpful in analyzing relationship between tokens, but it also really easy to parallelize. So this means that we could train larger models in shorter time or even in less hardware as compared to the before, using recurrent neural networks used in the past. So let's say you have 10 million samples collected, right? API sequence extract and labeled correctly. Now you start to train BERT-based model to classify sequence into 3 types or 3 classes. One is a malware, the other is a benign file, the other one is a potentially unwanted application. So the goal is not only to have a well-performing model, but to also see what the self-attention looks like, what APIs that the model would pay attention to. And this is what self-attention looks like on a ransomware example. So here you could see that the model head is paying attention to crypt and crypt function calls that are connected to crypto and file operations. I mentioned model heads earlier, right? And as you know, even different humans have their head, and their heads could focus on different aspects while looking at the same thing. So usually BART is also the same, right? BART model also has multiple heads, and each one of those focus on different aspects too. So this is the second head, for example, it particularly interested in race exception call or internet open calls. The third one especially likes the beginning of the sequence, while making connection to the further parts of it. And last, fourth head admires most like shell execute functions and its connection. So this is why I'm showing you all of this, right? So what's important to understand here is that all this attention activation do not represent the reasoning as to why a concrete sequence is classified as malicious or not. It is not meant to be explained by humans. This all just means that neural network uses the attention and their combination to get the final decision. And the point that I would like to make, right, is the difference between a single model versus a grouping or ensemble that impact on accuracy and the impact that it has on accuracy. What you could see here is called a confusion matrix, right? At first glance, it might look quite complex, but I want you to focus mostly on two important numbers. The very first one, false positive rate, and the second one is true positive rate, right? So this single model has a terrible score on false positive rate for almost 9%. So it would misclassify 9% of clean files as malicious. So this would be unusable, to be honest, in practice. Also, the true positive detection rate wouldn't be that great, right? At 82%. So that means that 82% of malware would be classified as such, right? So the rest would be missed, right? So not so effective. But if we join multiple models with different architecture and looking at the sample with a slightly different angle, we could achieve much better result, right? So here on this ensemble model, we improve the false positive rate to 1%, and we improve the true positive rate to 87%. And here's what I want to emphasize, and hopefully what you'll remember too in this particular session is that machine learning model by themselves cannot be used as only the layers of defense against threat. Even in perfect models trained on quality data, it's impossible to get 0 false positive and 100% detection, right? So this is why it's very crucial to have a machine learning model accompanied by different layers. So here is a simplified diagram which shows advanced machine learning module, right? ESET's advanced machine learning module. So the source of the data is the DNA. Remember the DNA detection that I mentioned earlier, right? So these are used as inputs for machine learning, for our machine learning models, and combination of deep learning with standard forest algorithms, decision tree, and so on. Then there's this consolidation part, another form of neural network, which we use to tweak the false positive rate and adapt to new developments. So this part is the most part that is frequently updated in this particular diagram. So until now, we've been talking about supervised learning with correctly labeled sample data, right? So what about unsupervised learning? So we're also using unsupervised learning, and we found a specific scenario where it could be useful. So in ESET, we built a system tailored to highlight outliner samples of UEFI executables with unusual characteristics. And thanks to our unsupervised machine learning, we discovered the very first LoRaX, the first UEFI rootkit ever found in the wild. Right? So we've been talking about the good guys using machine learning. So now let's look on the other side. From a cyber criminal point of view, there are many ways in which an attacker could use machine learning-based technology for their own benefit, right? So let's just examine some areas where machine learning is already used, or we anticipate that it will be used, how the bad guys would use them in the future. I'm sure you guys heard about this, right? Deepfake, right? So about the topic of Ukraine war. Machine learning could also be used to generate faces that could fool your Face ID. So that means iPhone didn't recognize if your face is fake, and it would just simply unlock the phone, right? There's could also be like automated generation of fake news, and this is really a big problem, right? So with the advancement of neural language processing, machine learning can generate quality fake news, and it's very hard to distinguish from actual factual truth news, right? And GPT models powered by phishing, right? Machine learning could be used as a composer to compose better phishing emails than humans. And this is a big deal, right? As email is still one of the most prevalent malware spreading vector available. And with GPT models, right? Chat GPT models are available to anyone. And the situation is probably going to get worse, right? So what about machine learning being used by malwares, right? So we know that automation was used and is being used heavily by attackers, mainly to create new variations of malware, or in other words, try to evade detection. And this has been standard practice for a very long time. But what about actual machine learning generated or malware or machine learning assisted malware, right? So it's hard to say. We don't see evidence of it being used that much just yet, but surely attackers would be experimenting on it, right? And we can expect it being a problem in the future. Here's another example, right? Example of how they're experimenting on it, right? So recently, researchers asked ChatGPT to write a file encrypting ransomware. At first, it refused, but with with a bit of convincing, it was manipulated into doing it, right? So same thing goes for bad guys. They could use it as for bad purposes. Machine learning could also be used to improve or generate new variants of older malwares, right? The newly created variant could consist of a mix of older variants that we've seen in the past that were likely to be detected, but since it produced new malware strains, it would be proved too difficult to detect, and the new malware strains with similar features, right? So this type of automated AV detection avoidance is still in the form of proof of concept, but just imagine, right? What a source code level modification in the hands of an extremely motivated attacker could do, right? They could really create a lot of malware in doing it that way. Another one would be in terms of machine learning capable of generating spams and phishing, right? Which we are already seeing right now, right? We can expect this to improve. New spams could be created from previous successful campaigns based on how the victims react or how the victims feedback from the victims, right? And machine learning can help find recurring patterns in content and then remove them. And then it could use to randomize content, making detection for spam and phishing threats more difficult. Another one would be in terms of self-protection. So machine learning could be used for malware's own protection. So it can help look for behaviors on system in botnets and then identify, for example, if someone is using a honeypot or a sandbox, and then distinguish if it's a real victim or just a researcher, a malware analyst trying to track them, right? It could also be used to identify detectable red flags that could give away the malware's attacker's intention and then avoid those, or even create red flags pointing to other malicious actors or group to mislead researchers and investigators, right? So you're going to put like breadcrumbs to point the researchers to other directions. And also, it can also be part of a self-destruction mechanism, right? In malware. So just imagine that self-destruction mechanism would activate when a certain conditions are met. So for example of this would be like a login by non-standard user or a program is detected, then the malware could automatically activate its self-destruction mechanism to avoid detection and then render further analysis impossible. Another one, it could mimic patterns, right? Just by looking into legitimate network traffics in victim's network to conceal its malicious activity. So those are just simply some of the how machine learning could be used by threat actors, right? So here I prepared an case study, right? So 𝐌𝐚𝐜𝐡𝐢𝐧𝐞, right? It's a malware used by cyber criminals believed to be based in Ukraine. It was first detected in 2014, but we're still seeing it still 2020s, right? It was a really a challenge for ESET to track their activities, right? Because ensuring we're detecting their malware. It's hard for us to detect their malware during that time. So 𝐌𝐚𝐜𝐡𝐢𝐧𝐞 was very elusive. It was like a cat and mouse game for us, for our botnet tracking system. So we thought, okay, maybe they're using fancy machine learning algorithms and probably high performing hardware, right? Which is why it's very difficult for us to detect them. But when the Ukraine police busted the operation, they published a video that revealed this true level of their hardware, right? So this is the hardware that they're using for their operation. So what I'm trying to say is don't underestimate how cyber criminals operate, right? Oftentimes, attackers don't need any fancy machine learning. They can just simply need to get the job done using standard means. Furthermore, machine learning could be used to significantly increase the speed of attack, especially in case of data theft. Just think about it. An algorithm can perform the extraction from a targeted machine, extract the targeted data from the system significantly much faster than any human could. So by that, right, it's hard to detect and almost impossible to prevent. On a short span of time, it could extract a vast amount of data that any attacker could do. It could also make malware targeting more effective, right? By simply profiling their victims based on any publicly available information or harvested data, right? From the internet. Right? And then tailor fit their malware for that purpose. And the last point that I would like to make, right, is finding new zero days, right? Just imagine a machine learning could be used to find zero-day malwares or zero-day vulnerabilities, then it's very difficult to detect that. So large companies like Google and Microsoft are already using machine learning-based fuzzing to find bugs in their software. And many of these tools are readily available. And there's no stopping, there's nothing to stop cyber criminals in terms of using these tools to search for zero-day bugs. And that could be very extremely valuable for attackers, right? So wrapping up, so I just have a couple of slides. So wrapping up, the artificial intelligence and machine learning future is already here. By the end of this decade, right, in the field of cybersecurity alone, it's expected to produce immense financial value. Same for security, right? Cybersecurity. And finishing off with something positive, right? So according to Consumer Technology Association in 2018, more than half of all artificial intelligence and machine learning applications were aiming to improve user security. So perhaps there's even a bright future ahead of us. Yeah, so that's my last slide. Thank you, guys. Ms. Arlene?
Okay. So sir, if we can stop the screen sharing box so we can focus more on you as our speaker. Actually, this is a very comprehensive discussion about machine learning. Actually, parang kulang nga ang isang araw, ang ilang minuto ng ating KC to fully explain what machine learning is all about. But in a nutshell, sir, you mentioned a while ago that In terms of usage, maraming gamit ang machine learning. And one of them would be the possibility of integrating it in our cybersecurity practice. So, ang ganda kasi ng title nyo eh. A good servant of a bad master. So how are we going to train our machine learning models, especially in cybersecurity, so that they wouldn't be a good servant to a bad master?
So the very first thing, right, in terms of training data, or probably I'll start with what data are being used to train machine learning models for cybersecurity, right? So this data could be, there are multiple data sets, right? Different data sets to detect, classify, respond to security threats. And some of those training data could come from your security logs. It could be from, especially malware samples, if you have a lot of malware samples, right? Network traffic data, security logs, threat intelligence as well, right? So for the good guys, for cybersecurity vendors, those are the data that they need. But for attackers, sometimes the available data for them is already available in the internet. The data sets that they need are already available in the internet. For example, I'm targeting one CISO or one CEO, right? And that's particular CEO have his Facebook, have his Instagram, have his LinkedIn, right? So I could harvest all those publicly available data and simply create a model, phishing model, for example, to make it more realistic, right? That would target him, that would entice him to download the malware that I'm trying to send him, right? And then from there, I could move, or I could do identity theft as well. So there could be a lot of data sets that they could use. Any publicly available data sets could be used. Yeah.
Okay, sir, meron po tayong ano dito we have one insight coming from our viewers according to Sir Tops, Christopherson, Dizon Laguatan. Thank you for that insightful session. What I can say lang is to strengthen machine learning in cybersecurity. To strengthen machine learning in cybersecurity is to partner it with human learning. How can we do that, sir?
Yes.
How can we do that simultaneously?
Right. So as I mentioned during my point earlier, right? In terms of creating machine learning model, that is just simply one piece of a bigger puzzle, right? So machine learning by itself, it's not sufficient. That's why majority of cybersecurity vendors are using multiple set of tools, multiple set of detection capabilities, putting them all together to have a more robust, a more effective detection level, right? And in terms of those models need to have correctly labeled data. So just imagine you have a lot of malware samples, ransomware examples, but those ransomware samples are not correctly labeled, right? So that by itself, the data that the training data that you have would be useless for you. You cannot use it to detect future ransomware or ransomware activities because that data set is not properly labeled. And another one is that it must be, again, regularly updated, right? So I cannot stress that enough. It must be regularly updated. So there's still some tweaking that needs to be done, right? Threat researchers are still relevant, very, very relevant, right? Because at the end of the day, right, what your machine learning could do, as well as your threat researchers, they're going to work hand in hand, right? To have a better detection rate, right? So it's not one or the other, right? Yeah.
Thank you po. Ruby?
Yeah, merong question dito from Mark Luis Oriano. Is there a disaster recovery plan in place for cyber attacks?
I'm sure there is, but yeah, I'm sure there is, but it could probably use machine learning, right? But there are certain frameworks that would have like disaster recovery plan, and for any organizations, right? I believe it's part of their security policies, right, to have disaster recovery. So if the question is if you're going to use machine learning, right, machine learning for disaster recovery, I think that is possible, right? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, speaking of cyber attacks, Tommy, how are the cyber criminals use this machine learning?
Yeah.
You have the types of cyber attacks. So can you give us a sample?
Yeah, I've mentioned a couple, right? I've mentioned a couple earlier. So the very first one, they could use machine learning in terms of creating new malware, right? So just imagine that an automated way of creating new malware. They could use machine learning to take an old sample and then run it on a machine learning trained program and then create a new variant of the same malware, right? So different behavior, probably different characteristics, but they didn't really invest a lot of time in terms of writing it. So they just have a pre-trained model in terms of that, right? They could also use it for spam and phishing, right? As I mentioned earlier, one of my example would be earlier is it's being used to craft phishing emails that is so well written compared to that of a human, right? That the success rate of victims falling for the phishing email are quite high. Right? So these are just some of the ways that machine learning could be used. And the scary part for this is that um, this machine learning models, right, could be used for self protection, right? So just imagine if I have a malware, I design a malware, and then I put in like some codes that would trigger if it sees certain cybersecurity software installed on the application, and it would trigger itself, right? So that by itself, the cybersecurity industry wouldn't be able to detect or wouldn't be able to create models, training models for that particular variant, right? So these are just some of those examples. Yeah.
Okay, let me just cite this coming from our chairman who is busy driving right now. Hi, Sir Angel, Chairman
Yes.
Angel. The problem with ML and AI is that those used by the bad guys are always better than those accessible to the good guys. Magandang
Yes.
hapon mga Kapex. What can you say about that? Is it true, especially nowadays? Are we having issues
Um.
about accessibility and all?
Uh. Probably yes. Probably in some way or another, it's yes. The problem with cybersecurity, right? It's always like a cat and mouse game, right? So the good guys, the cybersecurity industry would create something new, right? But then the other side would create something even greater, right? So again, going back to my example earlier, right, the emotet, right? For that particular ransomware gang who created it back in 2014, right? They're not using any sophisticated tools, right? But they could still get the job done. So just imagine if they have a pre-trained model to create ransomware, to create new forms of malware. So that by itself put the defenders, the cybersecurity industry in a very awkward position. And also what I would like to point out is that continuous improvements in terms of detection capabilities is always crucial, right? It's always crucial. It's always crucial to have multi layers of security controls in place. So yeah.
Yeah, there's a question here. Can SIEM tool prevent the attack made from the machine learning?
As I'm preventing attack, going to attack the machine learning itself, the model. Again, sorry. The question again, sorry.
The SIEM tool, does SIEM tool can prevent the attack made from the machine learning? It came from Rufi.
Right. So probably the question would be in terms of SIEM, does SIEM uses machine learning? Probably that's the question, right? So in my understanding, right? So we're not doing SIEM at ESET, but SIEM by itself, the very core functionality of it is to consolidate different data sets, different logs from different source, right? Consolidate them and then look for patterns, right? But I believe machine learning is already being applied in that sense, right? Because one of the functionality of SIEM is to collect vast amounts of logs, vast amounts of data, right? And then you're going to apply a pre-trained model or a machine learning based model to look for a different set of patterns from that specific data, right? So probably one of those patterns, for just for an example, would be finding finding failed login by a user for over 1 minute span of time, right? So typically, if you're a user, right, you're going to log into your laptop, it wouldn't take you 10 times to simply type in your password, right? Probably you get it first once mistake, right, and then your second login, you would be able to log in, right? But usually, um, uh, malwares, for example, would use that to probably brute force in terms of logging your system. So in a span of 1 minute, they log in 100 times over to that particular system. So that by itself, we could use machine learning to find that, to extract that particular sample from the big amount of data, to find that particular incident, and then create an ticket or an incident for it, right? And then security analysts could then look or investigate further in terms of what is this particular user, which particular application, which particular device is it, and then from there gather more evidence. So yeah, so definitely it would be used. Machine learning is being used within SIEM tools right now.
Okay, and we hope that we were able to answer through Sir Tommy the question of Rupe Artis. Yan, ang hirap ng pangalan. Super duper secured. So Sir, kanina kasi you mentioned, it was mentioned by Mr. Chair a while ago regarding the accessibility, of course, of this technology between the good
Right.
guys and the bad guys. So a while ago, you mentioned about stable diffusion. So
Yes.
it is actually a downloadable machine learning model. So
Model, yes.
how can we as regular consumers use it, and how do we use it responsibly?
Right. So in terms of that, right? So in terms, it really depends on the context, right? Using it responsibly, it's really depend on the person. So in terms of what I could probably say is use it for the intended purpose, right? So probably let me just do a definition first of diffusion, stable diffusion. So it's actually a generative AI model produced to create realistic photos or realistic image based out of text or image prompts. It was originally launched in 2022, right? So I could say is for us as a consumer to use it as it's intended, right? Meaning to say, the prompt or the inputs for stable diffusion would be text and photo images, right? So just use as such in terms of creating new images, like create me an image of banana, for example, right? So yeah, you have a banana. So yeah, just use it as intended. Yeah. So if you have malicious intent, definitely you're going to find bugs. You're going to find loopholes within that particular model, and then from there use it as to nefarious ways. So yeah. So be responsible. Yeah, be responsible.
VP Ruby?
Yeah, okay. There's one more question here from Kent Arnell. How can machine learning be effectively utilized to enhance threat detection and response in cybersecurity, particularly in identifying and mitigating zero-day vulnerabilities?
Right. So as I mentioned earlier, right? As I mentioned earlier, that's the first part of my presentation. So machine learning could be used in terms of helping threat researchers, security analysts, in terms of creating more um, removing or detecting different behaviors, classifying different samples, and then from there create a vast amount of data that are already well defined, well labeled, and then from there you could use machine learning in terms of generating new, for example, signatures to detect any sophisticated threat, right? But I would like to point out that machine learning itself is not efficient or it's not enough in terms of detecting all different types of malware, right? As what we can see on my example earlier, right? In terms of creating a single model would prove to be have a high false positive rate, right? Which is not very practical for businesses, not very practical for day-to-day use, right? So what I could say is to have a different, multiple ensemble of different models, different machine learning models put together, and then have them trained on the same set of data. And then from there, you're increasing the effectivity, the efficacy, the detection rate for that particular model, right? And also to have lower false positive as much as possible, right? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Ito po, dinagdag lang po ng ni Mr. Chair, Chairman Angel. SIEM is just a log collection tool. So it's correct po. It does not detect nor prevent attacks. So ano po, hindi po natin siya technically magagamit. And siguro po for our last question, kung wala pa po tayong hahabol na question coming from our audience, we've mentioned the fact that machine learning is the future, one of the future of cybersecurity. So how do we improve the accuracy in terms of the learning algorithms in cybersecurity when handling machine learning models po?
Right. So in terms of improving accuracy, human researchers, human expertise is still relevant, right? You cannot just simply have a product that is only using machine learning. So you still need to have threat researchers running in the back, right? Doing analysis for any sophisticated type of malware. And they still need to constantly update or tweak your machine learning model. So your model is just simply a tool to help you analyze vast amount of data, right? Because again, at the end of the day, there's a lot of multi-million of malware samples out there, right? And you're using machine learning to classify them and then focus on one particular set. Because again, as a human, we cannot do that, right? So my answer is again to work hand in hand, machine learning hand in hand with threat researchers to have a better detection rate. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much po, Sir Tommy. So, BPRB, final shout out po sa ating mga viewers to our 78 active viewers na hindi nalaglag at hindi tumigil habang nanonood sa inyong very comprehensive and very insightful na discussion about machine learning.
Yes, a shout out to mawala. Mobile din ako, so pasensya na kayo.
Yes,
Yan,
pa.
shout out to Bayo is watching from Calamba. Ayan, at si Hannah Kenji. Pa-shoutout po. Alright. Shoutout sa
Okay.
inyong lahat dyan.
Okay, we have another input coming from Ben Israel Daquedao. Exactly, Sir Angel. As Gardner defines it as security information and event management or SIEM technology, technology supports threat detection, compliance, and security incident management through the collection and analysis of both near real-time and historical of security events, as well as a wide variety of other event and contextual data sources. So, tama po. Shout out daw po coming from Buhay OFW Junior Vlog, one of our avid viewers.
And he's watching all the way from Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. We have Rafi Placido. Thank you very much. Marami silang natutunan po sa inyo, Team ESET. Congratulations. And again, from Sir Angel, definition versus practice. So this is a very a work in progress technology, of course. We have to learn it. And together, we have to improve it. Gaya nga ng sinabi nyo kanina, Sir Tommy, we have to constantly improve, check, recheck, because technology is not stagnant. So kailangan palagi natin chine-check. And the threat actors are very creative in doing what they are doing. So we have to get outside the box and learn and relearn everything from scratch because nag-iiba ang ating operational environment always. So siguro po final words coming from ESET before we close our session. Starting off of course from our resource speaker for today, Sir Tommy. What can you say po as a parting word for our avid viewers and followers for PexPro?
Yes, thank you. So for parting words, probably again, machine learning is just simply one of the security layers, security components that are being used by different cybersecurity vendors in terms of having good detection rate, right? But that by itself, it's not sufficient, right? At the end of the day, you still need to have human expertise that would validate that data, validate the data that your machine learning is trying to provide the output from your machine learning algorithms. right? And that human expertise is crucial in terms of writing future algorithms, future codes for machine learning based algorithms. So again, that by itself, it's not really a silver bullet, but multiple security layers are needs to be in place in order for us to have a more higher detection rate. Right? So yeah.
Thank you, sir. You can never erase the human element in the
Yeah.
technology, as
Yes.
always.
Yes.
Opo. And
Yes.
ito po, hindi pa natin naririnig silang lahat. So coming from, of course, Miss Desha, what can you say naman din po to our viewers?
Okay, so first of all, thank you everyone for watching our session, our Kwentuhang Cybersecurity session this afternoon, and I hope you found the topic insightful. And actually, tama yun, no? Kulang talaga yung 1 hour discussion for machine learning. But I'd like to reiterate lang din, no, yung na-discuss na rin earlier na there is no silver bullet talaga pagdating sa cybersecurity. And actually, dapat hindi lang talaga nakadepende sa technology na ginagamit natin. Even the consumer, even the technology user, meron din silang role and responsibility na kailangang i-observe sa paggamit ng technology, of course. So, hindi lang dapat meron tayong mga ginagamit na protection or security software and then we're okay na. So, kailangan tayo din, we observe cybersecurity hygiene.
Thank you, Miss Desha. How about Sir Mark? Okay.
Hello, good afternoon everyone, and hi sa mga viewers natin sa mga Ka-Pix Pro. So actually na-mention na rin naman lahat ni Tommy and yung insights din ni Desha, but siguro I'd like to end na lang din with this famous quote. So with the great power comes great responsibility, and I believe it perfectly applies to the realm of cybersecurity. Since as mentioned kanina, both machine learning and artificial intelligence are a powerful tool to automate both cybersecurity and yung mga cyber criminals natin. So also, I personally believe that in the world of cybersecurity and modern technology, continuous awareness and proper education are the simplest method and effective way to increase yung awareness din, lalo na sa mga younger generation na meron tayo. So that's why we need to support every cybersecurity communities with their advocacies like Pix Pro. So sobrang insightful and valuable din kasi talaga ng mga sessions like this dahil nakapag-share tayo ng mga experiences and knowledge sa mga supporters natin. So hopefully magkaroon pa rin ng future sessions with Pix Pro. Thank you.
Definitely po. Hindi po ito ang una at huli. And of course, we have Bebet Flores po.
Good afternoon mga Ka-Pix Pro. Parang wala na akong sasabihin. Nasabi na ata nilang lahat.
Yes, opo.
But anyway, ayun po. Siguro let me just end with our mantra sa ESET. So our mantra is basically progress protected. Because we are dedicated to protecting the progress that technology enables, which is why when technology enables progress, ESET here to protect it.
And together with Pix Pro, we will elevate, educate, and expand cybersecurity in the realm of the Philippine cyberspace. So maraming salamat po Team ESET for joining us today. Ito po ay habol ko lang from Sir Ben Israel ko daw. Learning wish list. Hope we can have a webinar that really shows ML in action and detects the threat. Possible po kaya? Okay, we will talk further about that, Sir Ben, and we will keep, of course, you and all our other members posted about our future trainings, hopefully with ESET once again. So thank you ESET PH for this insightful talk from Huge SC. So maraming salamat po, BP Ruby. To wrap it up po.
Yes, again, thank you, ESET, for this very interesting topic. And we look forward to your next session with us. Narinig niyo naman yung sinabi ni Ben Ezra. Perhaps we can do something about it. We'll see. No, thank you so much. At sa aming mga viewers, maraming salamat sa inyo. At magkikita tayong muli next Friday. Magpa-plug lang ako ng kaunti. No? We'll be doing chapter activation. 2 this sa June, 1 in Aurora and 1 in Quezon. So yung mga taga-Aurora dyan, abangan nyo kami. At sa mga taga-Quezon, kita-kits tayo.
Thank you very much, VP Ruby. Before we answer, Tommy, baka gusto mong i-shout out ang ating butihin at very supportive na misis at family here in the Philippines.
Hello.
Yes. Hinoy hello
Okay
lang
na yan.
talaga si ma'am. Anyway, she's watching. Hello, ma'am. So, anyway, thank you, Team ESET, and for this very wonderful, very insightful, very comprehensive. Kulang. Sana may part 2 pa na ating session for today's kwentuhang cybersecurity. And meron po kami, kung kayo ay may mantra, meron din po kami dito sa PixPro. So normally kasi when we say, bago ko pala i-close, nakita ko si Sir Andy Sir Andy. Definitely, we want to come again and support PixPro community. O nangako na si Sir Andy. Nagsabi na siya, we will take this as a confirmation. Sir Andy, we miss you here in the Philippines. We hope that you could come by sooner rather than later po for our future activities. So going back po, kung kayo po ay may mantra, kami rin dito rin po tayo sa PixPro, may mantra rin tayo. Kung yung iba po, pag nagwi-weekend, nagsasaya, kung saan-saan pumupunta, kung nagre-relax sa atin po sa cybersecurity, walang ganon. So samahan niyo po ako sa sabay-sabay nating pagsasabi lang ng happy lang walang weekend. Okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Mga ka-PixPro, happy lang walang
weekend.
Maraming salamat Team Philippines, Sir Tommy out there in Singapore. Tama po ba? Maraming salamat. Sir Andy, maraming salamat po and have a nice weekend everybody. Stay safe po and magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Ingat po, VP Ruby and Mr. Chair.